Hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we are going to do a meditative rant video. Now, for those that have not listened to me for very long, every once in a while, when I feel like I need to explain the layers of what's going on in the energy, I will put together these little meditative rant videos. And these are going to be something where I tie a little bit more focus into prior energies, future energies, and what's going on with the present, putting some layers together about a couple of things of what I'm seeing in my meditation, what I've been seeing in my intuition, and trying to put a little bit more tightness in my explanations through going through whatever intuitive rant comes through, because some of the times this does have notes. I will be honest, I got some notes here, but a lot of times I let intuition take over whenever it comes to this kind of episode. So we are going to do a meditative rant video on all of the retrograde drama that is November. And it's not just going to be about Mercury, it is the retrogrades, just in general. However, before I do a full rant on anything, I want to remind everybody that I am doing a Mercury retrograde special on my sessions. You can get a discounted session right now for the very last time at this pricing. What I am going to do is show the website this time. So all you got to do is go to www.thespirituallyboujee.com. You can see that right here. Go to astrological services, and I've actually narrowed this down to where you can actually see a couple of different things. Personalized horoscopes are something that everybody likes to get every once in a while. Like, that's a popular thing all on its own. So I didn't take that off, but I took off a couple of things just to make this really clean and easy for people to see. First things first, if you want to just book individual sessions right now, you can do a 60-minute session for $35. You can do a 90-minute session for $50. You can see that right here. Book now right here on the website. You provide all your chart information. However, there's a lot of people that you like to do multiple sessions, and you can do the bulk packaging at this as well. Normally, if you bought three, it would be like $40 a piece. I have lowered that also down to the $35. So you can do three 60-minute sessions or five 60-minute sessions at the $35 per session pricing. So you can do the bulk sessions as well. And for those that want to be able to do gift certificates for people, you can still do that one-on-one coaching for 90 or 60 minutes. And those have also been at the reduced price. So when I did the last episode, I said I didn't have it on the website yet. And the next time that we were, meeting up through the YouTubes and the Spotify's and wherever else you listen or watch me, I would show that on the website. So that has actually now been lowered. You can see it. Book at any time that's going to work out for you. You have until November 29th when Mercury turns direct to do your booking. Okay. You will never get this pricing again. And I cannot be so clear about that. I can't. It's the truth. It is real. That is it. Okay. Now, when it comes to this vibration, most of the Mercury retrograde that has just started, which that started on November 9th, just to be clear, a lot of that energy is like a very necessary energy to deal with differences of opinions, differences in pathways. It's a very big energy to make people come to terms with certain truths. And if you listen to the November 2025 month ahead forecast, what I talked about is like all of this month feels like choices, selections, like two of wands, two of swords, like a lot of twos as to like where we're making certain selections moving forward. But if we are not making selections, then maybe we are leaning more into our intuitive side and we're feeling more of the energetic lessons, or we are a part of other people's energetic lessons whenever it comes to the month of November. And after these planets have now gone retrograde, so what I'm talking about is Mercury has now turned retrograde. And as of today, the day that I'm recording this, November 11th, Jupiter has now gone retrograde. And my vibe all day has been, and I'm done touching it. Don't touch, let it happen. Whatever needs to happen this month with people in my personal life or anything along these lines, it's going to happen exactly as it needs to. You have warned, you have said it. Let it be done now. Let it, whatever happens naturally. So like, don't touch it. Okay. However, there are still a multitude of ways that this energy can manifest. And I want to kind of put first some very mundane focus onto some of the energies of this month. But I also want to then start to tie some timelines together because I don't feel like everybody is just dealing with something mundane. I feel like a lot of the vibration of where we need to make decisional changes, logical, informational, directional, communicative, planned changes, they are a long time coming. But that doesn't excuse the fact that we're not going to have mundane ways that a Mercury retrograde is going to show up. So I want to cover a couple of the mundane things. I also want to talk about some of the physical effects of what I've already been seeing. And then I'm going to bridge into the energetic part and then into the actual timeline energy. And then anything else that kind of pops up intuitively in the meantime, it is a meditative rant for a reason. So first things first. Mercury rules anything tied to communication, whether it is handwritten, verbal, spouting off at the mouth, too. Sometimes that's a different conversation. It's more of a physical conversation. Mouth, anything technological, anything that would be forms of media and other forms of communication. We are going to have things that do not go to plan. We are going to have certain opinions that are not agreeable. We are going to have certain people that make some kind of decision without properly thinking it through, and they're going to show their ass in some way. One part of this Mercury retrograde is in Sagittarius. The other part is in Mars' sign. It's in Scorpio, but while it's in Scorpio, Mars, the ruler of said sign, is going to be in Sagittarius. So there still puts a big focus back on Jupiter and Jupiter's vibration. Now, when it comes to, we're going to put a pin in that. I want to say something else, but I want to put a pin in that. So we're going to go back to the mundane stuff. We are going to see mundane, communicative ways that things do not go to plan. Mercury retrograde. Opinions are going to change. Plans are going to change. What we thought was going to go one way is going to flip and go another for one reason or another. Some of us, our opinions are going to change. For some of us, we got to deal with other people making their decisions and going their separate ways. Two of Wands, Two of Swords, new selections. And the two stuff goes back to what I was talking about in the numerology part of the month ahead video. Now, there's not just the selective energy. If we're not focused on the two in numerology, there is the 11, which is more of a spiritual energy of understanding octaves of multiple sides, of multiple opinions, and working and navigating through them. And whenever you come to the fact that this is a Mercury retrograde that is starting in Sagittarius, which is a mutable sign, Jupiter and Mercury are both the rulers of the mutable signs. There is a need, a decisive need for the turns in the vibration, for the shifts in the opinion, for the direction that we are going to go into next, where we're going now. Now, not everybody is in tune with that. Not everybody is going to understand that, but there is the need for those decisions. But if you don't have a decision to make, if you don't have some big thing going on in your life, then you might have physical reactions to this energy. Now, in my meditation over the last few weeks, the main energies where I have felt things were the areas tied to the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart chakra. But what I can also feel is like those little itch coming in the throat. And I feel like the throat chakra is a big part of what we deal with in the last few days of the Mercury retrograde, going into the post Mercury retrograde area. But I feel like there is a need for things that impact the heart, the sacral, and the root. Now, what's funny is if you put the planets of certain signs together as to how they would connect to those areas of the body, we find some similarities. Your root and sacral chakra, very sexual energies. Well, that would be very Scorpio. And Scorpio is ruled by Mars. But your hips and your sciatic nerve, that's going to be ruled by Jupiter. Mars is in Jupiter's sign. The Mercury retrograde starts in Jupiter's sign. Whenever it comes to this heart energy, anything in this heart chakra, chest cavity area, some of this is going to be lunar. Well, Jupiter's in Cancer, that's the moon sign. Some of this is going to be more either Mercury, the sun, or or Venus, depending on what part we're talking about. Mercury rules anything on your body in duality: 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 lungs, 2 kidneys. But Venus also has rulership of everything through your throat. You know that throat chakra I said a minute ago? Okay. Down into your lungs, down into this area. This is all up to your mouth, is all very Venus. And right now, Venus in Scorpio is not quick to reveal a lot of her opinions, but depending on what starts to impact this area, this chakra area, can make a difference of the words, the news that is later announced, pronounced, or starts to come through. And I feel like that energy activates literally around October, not October. Why did I say October? November. November 23rd, 24th timeframe, but becomes more dominant after Venus goes into Sagittarius. Because once we get through this Mercury retrograde, a lot of the energy is going to be in Jupiter's signs. At one point before the end of the year, we will have Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, the Sun, Mercury, Mars, and Venus are all going to make their way through Sagittarius. A lot of the vibration speaks to the Jupiterian side of the energy. And the thing is, we did have a Pisces eclipse back in September that activated a vibration that we were not yet able to work with. We were not yet able to expand. We were not yet able to heal, learn, or move with at that time. But as we progress forward, we will have a lot of vibrations more focused on the Jupiterian side than Mercury and all his nonsense. Now, a lot of people are like, it has felt like Mercury retrograde forever. I know. I kind of warned about that way back at the beginning of the year. I said, when the nodes go into these areas, South Node in Virgo, it is going to amplify everything mercurial to where we're going to feel the intensity of Mercury far more, which means it's even going to amplify those Mercury retrogrades because each one is going to be tied to the developmental change of where we need to have adjustments in the eclipse axis. There has been a reason for all of this drama. Now, when it comes to the more notable ways that I can anticipate this in having activations, anything tied to the lungs, I'm nervous for in the month of November. So respiratory infections, pneumonia, flu, anything that can be tied to this, I'm very nervous for. And anything tied to, again, anything in duality that is both ruled by Venus and Mercury. So your kidneys and your lungs, first and foremost, those are the things I'm nervous about for a lot of people. I feel like we're going to see certain things come to the surface that have been hidden in the body, or we're going to see different kind of activations in those areas or in the areas that Jupiter rules, because again, so much is going to be in Jupiter signs before the end of the year. We've already had our first glimpse of some of it, but not all of it. So Jupiter rules your feet, your lymphatic system. So any area of the body where we hold fluid, we retain some water, your lymphatic system. Jupiter rules your liver. Now, Mercury rules the majority of your actual intestinal health. So we're going to include just anything tied to the gut and the belly, getting activating, being more irritable or being more sensitive. Many people are going to need to change something in their diet as we go through the month of November based off of that. Some people are going to have like sluggish reactions to your liver. I'm going to be honest, for a lot of people, certain supplements like milk thistle is going to be really good for you. Apple cider vinegar shots on a regular basis to make sure you're doing what's best to cleanse parts of your body. I am nervous for people that have issues with gout because that can get a little bit more triggered, but there can be bodily reactions when it comes to parts of this energy. Because again, not all of us deal with the mundane, not all of us are dealing with the big life path vibration per se. Some of us are just going to literally be put into our place and told not to move because of our health. It is what it is. I've seen it happen multiple times. I have been the sufferer of it once or twice myself. Just knowing that this is how the vibration can manifest, it makes it easier to prepare whenever we get hit by some of those things. Mercury also rules travel, but so does Jupiter. Jupiter is more associated with long distance travel, where Mercury is going to be more of your daily commute kind of things. I do anticipate we're going to have disruptions in travel. Again, trying to go off of all the mundane things because I have this bad habit of I'll think of something later going, oh, I wish I'd remember to say that on the podcast. And then I don't do it. Or I only mention like a glimpse of something and whenever I wanted to go into something in more detail. So I'm trying to cover my bases of much as possible as to what I'm anticipating so people can understand if they're seeing the turns, which by now you should be seeing some of the turns in people, some of the turns in behavior, some of the shifts in opinion, some of the setbacks, some of the pushback based off of the initial vibration of energy as to these two planets turning retrograde simultaneously. And when we get to the end of the Mercury retrograde, it coincides with Saturn ending its retrograde. And what's really interesting, now I'm going to start to pull some timeline stuff together. So for those that want to be able to understand where we're shifting to, the timelines are becoming very, very important. Saturn and Neptune retrograding back into Pisces, the way that they have, are now activating areas of the sky where we had a lot of turmoil back earlier this year, specifically March, April, May timeframe. More so March and April. But there are reasons why those topics, those situations are getting tested. Some are getting revised. Some are going to not necessarily get revised, they get revisited. We see how successful they are. And then we start to do the next round or the next level of change that goes with the prior changes based off of the placements of Saturn and Neptune. But Jupiter, Jupiter's retrograde is happening over the area of the sky where Mars was retrograde earlier this year. The retrograde actually started in 2024, but it was primarily in Leo during that time. In January of 2025, Mars retrograded back into Cancer. It went from the 29-degree mark all the way to 17. Whenever it comes to this Jupiter retrograde, it is at 25 degrees, and it will go all the way back to 15 degrees of Cancer. So there are parts of the vibration of right now where we need to understand, heal, expand, learn lessons from energies that were disrupted earlier this year based off of Jupiter's placement in the sky being where Mars was before. Uranus now back in Taurus. I can't forget he's back there too. Neptune and Saturn being back in Pisces. There's a lot of this energy that takes us back to we need to reframe, revise, rethink parts of the energies of where we made very tumultuous decisions earlier this year. And if you did listen to me whenever I was giving the advice of like, do the opposite, because that was a big part of my advice in October. The reason I kept saying to do the opposite is because then you could break away from some of those vibrations sooner and make different decisions sooner. If you listened, if you were able to pick up on that, you're not as anxious in the current vibe as other people are. Because there are some people, when Mercury turned retrograde, you were spiraling. I know that because you were in my DMs, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but y'all know who you were. You know who you were. For other people, I've had one or two people check on me going, "Hey, girl, like, how are you doing?" None of people ask you that question. And I was like, which is fair. A lot of people, they don't. And I'm not complaining. I know that sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not. I'm just ranting. But it's one of those things that I was like, no, as each of these have hit, like, I'm super chill. And the one or two people that, again, that I've had constant communication with, that they said, like, I did the opposite, they too have been like very chill going into this, going, no, I'm okay. Because we're reaching a peak of either being forced to make decisions, very much the 2 in the numerology, or we're at this intuitive 11 level, because November is an 11 month. But the whole reason is, if we're in this higher level of the intuitive, which kind of leans more into the Jupiterian side, just to be clear, or if we're in the decision making sign, which feels more mercurial, going into the 2 energy, there's a very big split in the dynamics. Some people are frantic and having pushback, and you're having tests and you're having frustrations hit you nonstop. Things are not going to plan. Other people are acting out of character. You have no choice but to react and deal with their drama, while other people are just kind of chill. I'm okay. Just let it happen. Just let it go. Whatever happens, happens. That's my mindset. I hope it could be yours, but everybody's in a different place. Let's be fair about that. Any area of your body that you are feeling weight, that you are feeling tension, that you are feeling compelled to do things or go somewhere or say something, all of that is telling you a certain part of the vibration. And for some of you, if you would normally listen, there's a lesson in it. If you are deciding not to listen, you are letting things happen naturally and not getting involved. It's hard to trust certain energies right now because all of this month is a test. And if you just know that, if you logically know that and you accept that from the beginning, basically you have this ability to be able to say, I'm willing to take this test. I don't want to take that test. I don't need to go out and have fun. I can just sit at home with my dogs. I don't need whatever's about to happen in that place with those people. I don't need any of that. I'm chill, just being happy in my own little world right here. Yeah. You can kind of see the vibration I'm trying to tap into. I feel like I've been pretty successful. Now, the one thing that I will say with a lot of the root sacral chakra energies kind of going into that, I haven't fully developed into the timeline. So I'm doing a tangent real quick. The thing about those root sacral energies is, some of the times, and whenever it comes to hip flexors and the sciatica, if you're feeling those areas of tension in your body, there's also a need to work those out. And you're going to have to do it continuously until the strain is gone, because that is another way it manifests. But I have personally been doing more hip workouts than I would normally do, just because of how much is manifesting right in there, in that area, in the hips, not the belly, the hips. Okay, going back to timelines. I apologize. Now, Jupiter again is retrograde in an area of the sky where Mars was retrograde earlier this year, where he created a lot of scorched earth. Mars was retrograde from January 4th. This is all from memory now, to February 23rd in Cancer. After February 23rd, he turned direct, and he stayed in Cancer until April 17th, 19th, something like that. January to April. He did a lot of scorched earth. He impacted a lot of people. He disrupted a lot of emotions, Mars and Cancer. And Jupiter right now, going over this area multiple times is making us learn, expand our knowledge, get more info, pivot from, heal from the prior vibrations. Now, here's the funny, curious part. Please note I said funny, curious, not really funny, haha, so to speak. Next year, in this same area of the sky where Jupiter just turned retrograde, we will have a Mercury retrograde. This tells me even more so that what we're dealing with right now, the decisions of right now, the splits of right now, the pushback, the pullback, the clapbacks, the whatever it is right now that we're being forced to handle and forced to deal with, we will have another layer of lessons attached to these decisions next year, specifically in July. Because in July of 2026, Mercury will go retrograde at 26 degrees, so right next to where Jupiter just started, and go all the way back to 16, retracing another area of the sky where we've already had 2 prior retrogrades. So these areas of Cancer are very important. They're highlighting different things. They're bringing different things to the surface. And in some ways, it's stuff that we need to nurture and care for and heal, because I'm thinking of Cancer. There's emotional parts of this. There's intuitive parts of this that need a certain amount of streamlined energy to unfold over a certain amount of time to make all the connections. And that's the big thing that's been coming through in my meditation is like this energy that we're in, whatever needs to happen is going to happen, because it's a necessary part of the healing process, whether that is expansion, whether that is growth, whether that is healing, whether that is intuitively learning our lessons and vibing at this higher level of intuition, or if it's where we're being forced to make decisions, or where you're seeing other people forced to make decisions and go through splits. Because again, there's going to be a lot of decisions and splits by the time we get to the end of November. It's all very necessary for the next part of the energy. Now, again, the areas of the sky where previously were highlighted goes all the way back to this spring. And we will have things from the springtime that are now coming full circle, that are now coming all the way around. People are coming back around. Decisions that we made back then, we're trying to get a game plan. Was this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? Which way do I go? Do I need to expand? Do I need to level up? Do I need to do more? Do I need to wrap some things up of stuff that I did start back in the springtime? For some people, there is a wrap up in the energy, but there is this connection to the now that ties back to before. There is a future connection that now is going to impact, and that feels very specific to that July timeframe. And whenever I meditate on 2026, 2026 feels like a series of new energy, some that unfolds in January, some that unfolds in April, some that unfolds in July. But then when we get to last quarter, those unfoldings come with tests that will last for a very long time. And I mean like 7-8 months worth of tests. But that's that testing. So I don't want to get too deep into that yet. That's that level of testing. This feels different. And this one actually feels calmer and peaceful. It really just kind of comes down to where your lessons are coming in. For me, it feels calmer and peaceful. For some people, it's not. For some people, it is manifesting in your personal life. It is manifesting in some form of loss. It is manifesting in some other level of split or indecision of things not being able to continue. And it feels like we're wrestling with brick walls trying to figure something out. There's some people that are being very shocked into levels of insecurity and again spiraling of just like, I don't know what's going on in the world. It's okay. breathe, temporary energy, breathe, temporary energy. Yes, we're going to have some long-term effects from it, but this part of the vibration, temporary energy, breathe. And a lot of times you'll catch me doing that. It's like, okay, breathe, temporary energy. We've got to work through some things to overcome humps. And then once we get through a lot of this month, I'm really excited. I'm excited for December. There's a lot of transition to December. That transition of where we start to shift our focus is going to take us into a lot of new. And this is where I'm going to start kind of describing some of those future timelines as to why we needed to change and pivot right now. Because it's once we do the changes, once we do the splits, once we do the pivots, what follows moves very, very quickly. 2026 is a 1 year. I'm going to talk about this again later on. January is a 1 month. Taking the numerology out of it, there's a bunch of planets that go into conjunction with the sun in January. One in particular, I like to call a Mars rebirth. Anytime you go into a planet going into a conjunction with the sun, that planet is said to burn away certain things, extras, the things that don't matter. Certain things fall away, curtains fall away. And for a lot of people, January is going to reveal. It is going to debut. It is going to push forward. It is going to launch. It is going to put some big things into perspective. Mars will go into a conjunction with the sun. Venus will go into a conjunction with the sun. This is going to be in Capricorn. Pluto and Mercury will also go into conjunctions with the sun. This is going to be in Aquarius. This is primarily Saturn signs. After we go through all of these planets rebirthing, going through conjunctions with the sun, so we're rebirthing, in January, a rebirthing of vibration, a rebirthing of certain energies, a new form of responsibility, because this is going to be mainly in Capricorn. It is followed by Saturn's full emergence into Aries, where he will be for the next 2 years. And that is going to take place, depending on your time zone, somewhere between February 13th and February 14th. For the majority of us, all of Valentine's Day is our first full day of Saturn being in Aries. So I just keep remembering it as Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day. Yay. A lot of what comes to light, a lot of what gets revealed, gets discovered, gets debuted, gets launched, gets pushed forward in January, becomes our new hustle, Saturn and Aries. It becomes our new focus, Saturn and Aries. It becomes this thing that we dedicate to, that we are driven to achieve. I'm looking at the fact that Mars is going through a rebirth, and Mars to me is the most important of all the planets I just said. Mars's rebirth in Capricorn, in Saturn's sign, before Saturn enters Mars's sign for the next 2 years. To me, Mars is the important one. I'm not saying a Venus Cazimi is not important. I'm not saying Sun conjunct Pluto is not important. They are, but they are for different reasons. Mars is said to be exalted in the sign of Capricorn. He is able to achieve whatever he wishes to achieve. And the energy in January feels like an achievable action that sets a new long-term intention, a new long-term vibration. There's a reason we got to make some splits, and we got to separate from certain people. We got to wrap up our unfinished business throughout the end of 2025. It is because in 2026, we are going to be so damn busy. It is unreal. Unfreaking real. But we got to transition into that. Before we know exactly what our new focus is going to be, we have to see the transition. We have to see people change their opinions. We have to rethink, revise. We have lessons to learn. We have differences to put into perspective whenever it comes to this vibration. There's a need for the splits. There's a need to test our energetic alignment. There's a need for the physical reaction. There's a need for the mundane setbacks, your phone breaking, cars breaking down. I hate saying Rex, knock on wood situation. I really don't like talking about that. But literally this week, the week that I'm recording this, is the second Mercury Mars conjunction. Oh, and the third Mercury Mars conjunction, the one that's going to happen on January 17th, 18th timeframe, that is going to also be in Capricorn. So, ha ha ha. There's a reason for the commitments and the rethinking and the reshaping and the revising. They are creating opportunities. We are making space for where there will be additional levels of growth, change, debuts, new vibration in 2026. Tying together stuff that I have been saying all year, 2025 and 2026, is us getting acquainted with our new normal. 2025 was a glimpse. 2026 is where we take a dive into that water. We dive into that pool. And so much of our energy is going to push us into new vibrations, new actions, new reactions, new levels, new focuses. The glimpses of what we saw before are going to be exponentially larger because the pinky toe dips of those planets only going to 1 and 2 degrees of their signs. And by now I'm talking about Neptune went to 2 degrees of Aries, turned retrograde and went back. Saturn went to 1 degree of Aries, turned retrograde, went back. Uranus went to 2 degrees of Gemini, turned retrograde, went back. There's a reason we need to settle out the old vibration, the old debts, the old energy, the old relationships. There's a reason we need to finally cut ties. There's a reason we finally need to heal something. There's a reason we need to do the opposite. It is the biggest thing to help us fully connect to the new vibration that we will transition into going into January. That's not that far away. Now, I'm talking about that in a individual sense. For a lot of people, the individual sense is going to vary quite a bit. And it really kind of comes down to what Capricorn rules for you whenever it comes to that time frame. It's going to make a difference of what kind of houses the cardinal signs rule for you. Because these rebirthings in Capricorn, Aquarius too, but I'm stuck on the Mars and the Venus one. Mars more than anything, and that is definitely in Capricorn. Jupiter's retrograde is in Cancer. We're talking about Mars and Neptune fully engulfing themselves into Aries. Those are cardinal signs. They're instigative signs. They are the shit starter signs. I say it all the time. They are shit starters. I love a good shit starter. Depends on the situation, but I do. I will take a smart ass asshole Capricorn placement any day of the week because at least I know exactly where I sit with them. They're not going to gaslight me, and that's incredible. I love honesty in that way. Okay. We need to commit for the outlook of the future in the ways that we heal. We need to commit to doing something different than the way we previously would. If in the pre-shadow phase of Mercury turning retrograde, during that first Chiron Jupiter square, which if I add the Chiron Jupiter stuff to the timelines, the first one was that week of October 20th that I growled about immensely, that everybody heard me talk about. The next Chiron Jupiter square is going to happen in December. It's actually going to happen right before Christmas. The third and final Chiron Jupiter square happens in July. When that next Mercury, when that Mercury retrograde happens, that will be the second one of next year. It's not going to be the next one. We'll have another one in Pisces beforehand. And that's going to be in the next eclipse season. I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But that July Mercury retrograde, that's going to happen while the South Node is still in Virgo. That is going to happen before we go into a whole different vibration of energy. And it's going to be retracing an area of the sky where we had scorched earth in a Mars retrograde, has now learned healing lessons in a Jupiter retrograde to make new long-term logical decisions. I'm hoping it's logical. With that Mercury retrograde, I'm hoping it's logical. We'll see. We'll see. We will see. Now, the other thing, and this is going a whole different gear set, still talking about the same energy that I've already talked about. Basically, the preparation for January. Now I want to talk about the end of that Mercury retrograde. I still go back to that Mars one. Now I want to go back to the end of the Mercury retrograde. This is going to be the timeline I'm talking about next is the most exact between the 25th and the 29th of November. The reason I'm including the 25th is because, again, the Mercury retrograde will end simultaneous to Saturn's retrograde ending. And once we get through all of the Jupiter transits of Sagittarius and Pisces, we're talking about in January, a bunch of planets going through rebirths in Saturn sign. There's also going to be an energetic shift as to who is responsible for what now. That will kind of be one form of the things that revealed itself in debuts or showcases in January. That will be one way it comes to light. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to be something very, very interesting whenever it comes to people in positions of power, bosses, CEOs, and a real interesting vibration around our government here in America. I'm not talking about everybody else's government because I don't know enough about everybody else's government, and I'm not going to piss anybody off more than I already do. Now, our government. If I look at the start of the Mercury retrograde, the day Mercury turned retrograde, the Democrats, some of them crossed the line to be able to end the shutdown. At the time that I'm recording this, the shutdown has not actually shut down. Let's be clear. The government is still technically shut down. We haven't reversed anything yet. But today, when Jupiter turned retrograde, what I have seen over and over again in my newsfeed, listening to Bloomberg throughout the day at different times in between sessions, has been a very big reaction to, we waited and did all of this just for no result. What the hell? Jupiter is retrograde. The masses, the people, the masses and what they need. That can also be a big part of what we deal with in those Jupiterian transits, the masses pushing things forward, groups of people pushing things forward. I also look at the fact that we are talking about, like, one of the things that they were hesitant on had to do with the Affordable Care Act. And with Jupiter's stationing retrograde, like, we didn't get that agreed upon. Knowing that so many of our transits will actually be going through Jupiter signs, I feel like there will be a lot of conversations in this area. And again, it's going to be up to certain people in positions of power to reveal the new concepts of what needs to happen. I do not disagree that many of the systems that have been put together here in America, I don't disagree that they're broken. There's a lot of room for people to abuse the system. I'm being honest. I know that it's there. Many of us do. But the answer is not breaking. The answer is revising. And my hope is that people in positions of power will commit to revisions. That is my Jupiterian hope for all of this. Now, how much of that people want to listen to is a very, very different conversation. But whenever people ask me, are you not worried? Are you not concerned? I'm not, for some reason. I haven't been. If I go all the way back to the summer of 2024, when the roller coaster of vibration started, you've had to listen to me for a while to remember that far back. That vibration really set a tone of we're going to go through a whirlwind. And the whirlwind is necessary to get us into the new normal. The whirlwind is necessary. The roller coaster is necessary. Breaking up situations, breaking up the rules, breaking up the way we've done things, the breaking is necessary to build something new. It's just a matter of who's in place to build something new. I still think we need to go through some breaks. There's got to be one or two more jars that get just thrown against a wall. Let's let it happen. There's a few more things that need to break. But then there's also that need for accountability of people in positions of power, people in positions of authority, because we have an energetic curve that speaks to really creating something new. If we use the energy appropriately, if we use it well. Not everybody's able to use it well. Some people have made certain decisions to split, but they're not splitting in the timeline that actually makes sense. So eventually, one or two of those people are going to get forced to split sooner. I'm not casting anything out. I'm just being realistic about what I'm seeing. As we go into the new normal will need to be built well and it will need to be tested. Every good building, house, anything like that, you're learning of any sort, we go through tests. It's necessary to go through tests. It's to make sure that we actually learned our lessons. You took a spelling test to make sure that you could spell things. Now, usually that spelling turned into something else to make it more amusing. You were in class learning how to spell whole. Out of class, you added the ass to it, making it as interesting as I can. We need the lessons to then be able to handle the tests. The energy of right now is going to lead to very big tests, even a year from now. The transitions of right now will lead to very big tests, even a year plus from now. I needed to say it more than once. But as a collective, so as the whole, I am hopeful for where we're going next. But I also recognize some of the people that come through to break things up come through for a reason or a season. They might not necessarily be the ones that rebuild. And I feel very compelled to say that right now because I say that very frequently. People come into our life for a reason or a season. Sometimes those people are there to help us get over the hump. You needed your best girlfriend. You needed that dude to help you get over your ex. Whatever it is, there's no judgment. Do what you need to do. You needed that support to help you get over that hump, to help you get to the next chapter of your life. But then once you start the test or the next lesson, the next path, some of those people don't continue with you. They don't go alongside you. Your coworkers from your first job when you were 16 are not the same coworkers that you have when you're 40. Some of y'all are weird. I know some of y'all like you stayed best friends with that person. I'm talking about the majority of people because I already know somebody's going to put it in the comments like, I'm still working with my best friend. I know there's a few of you out there. There are a few. But for the majority of us, we don't work with all the same people 20 plus years after our first job. We just don't. We're not in the same field. We're not doing the same thing. Sometimes it's the same field, but it's a different position. People come into our life for a reason or a season. Sometimes we are the pivotal person. Sometimes we are the disruptive person. Other times it's them, whoever they are. And if you look at life in such a way, it makes it easier to understand not everybody is going to be here forever. The concept of what a forever person looks like is very, very hard to achieve if you understand that level of the energy pattern, reasons or season. This is a temporary energy. So most people are coming in for a reason. They are coming in to help us heal. They are coming in so we can go through a test. They are coming in to help us with understanding a lesson, to break a pattern. A lot of us, it's breaking a pattern. With the Chiron Jupiter part, a lot of us, it's breaking a pattern. But once things are broken to their necessary point, they will reach a ability to rebuild. And I feel like we're getting closer to something that showcases some rebuilding. Maybe that's the Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. I'm not a Cancer rising, I'm a Scorpio rising for people that don't know that. But Jupiter is my time lord, and I'm so tuned into Jupiter's energy. And I feel like whatever happens next over these next few weeks, it's just going to happen the way it happens. My hands are off. I'm still going to do the podcast and stuff like that. I'm not saying anything like that, but there are certain needs to have changes. There are certain needs that need to happen to embolden and empower people to take back certain steps, to overcome certain wounds, to move in new directions. This energy, whether it is creating anxiety for you or if you are vibing, is necessary no matter what. It is helping us expand. It is helping us heal. And again, in the future, not too far away future, because if you think about how quick all this energy is going, July's not that far away. It's leading us into something very, very solid as a part of our new normal, a different set of challenges. And for a lot of people, those challenges are going to force you into different directions. And this is how I kind of want to sum this up, because I've let a lot of this kind of go into just like circles of the rant. So I apologize. That's why it's called a meditative rant. For a lot of people, the new normal is a new path. It's a new direction. For many people, it's a new field. It's a new chapter of life. It's a new arena. It's a new area that you're being called to, that you're being pushed to, that the universe is saying, this is what you do now. Go do this. Some of you are starting to pick up on that. Others, you're still trying to fight it, going, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Some of us are trying to really make something happen in temporary energy, not knowing that the energy is not going to allow for all of it to happen until certain things align, which takes me more into parts of 2026 whenever we have all those new levels in the vibration. January, April, July. Those are the ones that I'm most focused on. Once we get into October, it's starting the tests. And I still don't want to talk about that. We will get there when we get there, okay? Don't push me. I know some of you guys laugh at me too when I start laughing. So there's that. Some of you, if you've been in certain fields and you can't find a job in that field, it is because it's time to change fields. And for some of you, that means going for a job where you get hands-on training. For some of you, that means going back to school for a certain type of field. And it's not going to be the one that you think. Part of where we go next is going to be more hands-on. It is going to be more industrial. It is going to be more blue collar. We're going to require a different vibration in the work. But it's necessary energies to solidify something. If you think back, this is going into a historic thing, to parts of the 1800s, whenever it was known as like the Industrial Revolution. But if you go back and look at the transits during a lot of that, you find a lot of like mix of Virgo. Oh, the eclipse axis is in Virgo. Aries. Oh, look, Saturn and Neptune are going into Aries. Transits, sometimes Gemini, but we're also starting Uranus in Gemini. There's something that's meant to exponentially grow and change whenever it comes to the potentials. Where you thought you were going to succeed isn't going to remain your area of success. Many people, you're being forced in a different direction. And for some of you, that's the lessons of right now, is accepting, I got to go back to school. I got to try something else. I got to go work for my dad. I got to quit working for my dad. Some of y'all are not taking over the family business, and you got to accept that. There's a directional shift in the vibration. And for some of you, coming to terms with your new direction, it is a part of your unfinished business, because that means letting go of a big chapter of your life. Sometimes it's not people. Sometimes it's not places. It's a part of you and your identity. But there's a reason for the splits. There's a reason for the pushback. There's a reason for the setbacks. There's a reason for the tests. And I felt very compelled to come on and do this meditative rant about the retrograde drama. And that's what I'm calling it, by the way, is retrograde drama, as to why things are going and unfolding and unraveling and breaking the way that they are. Sometimes you can pick up the broken pieces and you can turn it into a mosaic. Sometimes you can turn it into that beautiful Japanese pottery with the flints of gold in it. Sometimes by picking up old pieces and building them back in a different way with better material, stronger material, more everlasting material, you can create something better than what we had before. And I'm hopeful in the long run for the collective of everything we've been going through. I am hopeful. I'm not high. I want to start with, just add that in there. It's just where I'm feeling in a lot of this energy. And as much of I trigger anxiety in some people, and I know I do. I'm a Pluto conjunct the ascendant person. For those that have never seen my chart, quite literally, it's Scorpio 1 degree, Pluto 2 degrees of Pluto conjunct the ascendant. I trigger insecurity in people. I know this, but I do it with the best intentions because my Pluto is opposite Venus, and you either love me or hate me. There is no in between. Whether I'm trying to or not, I trigger insecurity in everybody. And it took me a long time to be able to come to a very good, healthy point with that, of just accepting it is what it is. This episode is not meant to trigger the insecurities. It's meant to explain when you feel them. It's meant to explain why certain things have not gone to plan and not going the way that you had hoped. It is to explain that if you're feeling like there's no other choice but to go in a different direction, to do the opposite, like I have screeched for a while, there is a reason why. And sometimes, again, the unfinished business of what we are needing to deal with and where we are going next is not necessarily some infinite change of your surroundings that we're looking for. It's the person we see in the mirror evolving, changing, growing, and becoming a new version of yourself. When you can't recognize parts of yourself anymore in the mirror, it is because you are still trying to see something that isn't there. And we have to start to accept who we are becoming next. It's a bit of evolution. We are healing. We are expanding. We are learning. And we are going to be holding a lot of people accountable as we progress. There might be another meditative rant video closer to the end of the Saturn retrograde, Mercury retrograde combination, in case there's extra things that I pick up in there, because I haven't done a meditative rant video in a while, but I felt like this one was very, very necessary. And this is one of those things that we're not being real heavy on charts. It's just me talking to the camera and the microphone, and then you guys get to hear it later. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for everything that you guys do to help me grow. And Thank you always for the feedback and the DMs. I know it sounds like I'm complaining about that. I love the feedback because when you guys tell me like the human element as to how something has manifested, it helps me continue to learn because I don't care what anybody says. I'm a 30 plus year student of astrology and I'm not done learning. Okay. I love you all. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Subscribe.